Where's my package? It's a phrase we've all uttered dozens, if not hundreds of times, some probably with a little bit of excitement and some with some resentment. From a technical standpoint, there's a lot that goes into getting a package to your home these days. And I couldn't be more excited to welcome two of the best people in the business to talk exactly that. Welcome to this episode of Better Yet. We're doing fireside chats with innovators, visionaries, and leaders. I'm Dan Ptak, your host, and I'm very excited to be welcomed by two guests this afternoon. Anna Podolskaya, she's a product manager over at EasyPost, and Mike Koleno is chief technical officer over at Better Trucks. Anna, would you kick us off and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, thank you so much, Dan. Yeah, I'm Anna. I'm at EasyPost more than 4 years, and I'm working with the different carriers. And one of my very great partners is Better Trucks. We did very interesting integration last year, and we're growing our partnership. I'm looking forward for this conversation because where's my package? It's pretty often my question as well as an actual end consumer.
Fabulous. Welcome, Anna. And Mike, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Thanks, Dan. Mike Koleno, Chief Technology Officer, as Dan stated, at Better Trucks. Been here for officially about a year and a half. Prior to that was working as sort of an outside technical consultant for Andy and for Wes. So been around the business for about 2.5 years now, and loving every minute of it. So.
Fabulous. Awesome. Well, I know we have a ton of ground to cover. So Mike, I'm actually going to turn it over to you. I know you've got someplace you want to kick things off.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks, Dan. And thanks again, Anna, for joining us here today. As you mentioned, you have been at EasyPost for about 4 years. I feel like anyone who's working in the technology aspects of our business, especially what relates to kind of the modern technology, it doesn't always translate to having a ton of industry experience or being in the industry for a very long time. So you and I, in certain terms, have been sort of recently introduced to this business. And so can you maybe kind of highlight how and where your maybe career got started and how you made your way over to EasyPost, just to kind of set the stage?
Absolutely. Actually, one of my first jobs, official jobs, was at DHL Europe in Russia, where I was in technological department, and I was helping their team to set up all technical processes. And that was my first step in the logistics world. I saw all those little yellow cars driving around Moscow here and there. And that was very fascinating. I started my career more than 15 years ago in technology. Our whole my life been in technology, and I finished technological university back in Moscow. But around 6.5 years ago, I decided to pursue my dream, and I moved from Europe, where I was working in education technology, to get my MBA in the United States. I got my MBA. I also got a scholarship in a dual degree in a business analytics and a big data. And at that time, I found a really great opportunity at EasyPost. I think it was perfectly matched my background, technological plus logistics. And I started together with them almost 4 and a few months ago. And my responsibility always was about expansion, international expansion or regional carriers. And I'm still working. I was switching roles there, but I'm still working with carriers outside of Big Four, outside USPS, UPS, FedEx, and DHL, even though they also were in my portfolio. And I really love all regional carriers. They are trying to step up. They are trying to be competitive with the main carriers in the United States. And it's fascinating to see how this industry is growing and how new technology affecting those regional carriers compared to the big classical Big Four carriers.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you mentioned just sort of the rate of change. And I think as technologists or even folks who can kind of see how and where things like technology have made its way into everything sort of e-commerce, and how that's translated to a much more sort of digitally focused delivery experience. These changes are everywhere, but obviously there's a lot of change happening in the last mile delivery business, which has been around for decades, right? And so yours is a larger sample size than mine, but in the last 4 years, because I think it's also fascinating, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. Our EasyPost kind of sits in between both shippers and carriers. Can you kind of highlight, what the maybe to sum it up over the course of the last 4 years, some of the major changes you've seen from a technology and sort of rate of change of use of technology in the last mile delivery spaces look like?
Yeah, let me give a little super short background to explain our listeners what company is doing. EasyPost is an API provider, API multi-carrier solution, which connecting different carriers like USPS, FedEx, Better Trucks, DHL with a different e-commerce, which means for e-commerce, they have opportunity to see different rates and create labels with the different carriers. And for carriers means that they can capture a volume of those e-commerce. That means there is the kind of competition between carriers to grab this attention of a different e-commerce warehouses and moms and pop shops. Yeah. Changes I see, I think I'm like slightly start mentioning this, that big players, they're very classical in terms of like their solutions. They're not that fast in the changes of consumers' requests. Our podcast is where's my package, right? And we're talking about tracking, right? Like the tracking solution, for example, by original carriers, served much better. Like they understand, like, okay, this is experience. There should be some gamification. There should be some ability to see on the different stages where is the package. Like there's a detailed explanation where our classical carriers, they set up this process. They were one of the first, but times are changing. Plus we have right now a lot of international shippings where our consumers ordering overseas and then they are shipping overseas. That's what a lot of carriers, like smaller carriers, also trying to capture as the potential volume. In terms of technology, I think big players start to understand that SMBs, small and medium businesses, are very attractive. Even before it was difficult to justify because it's a smaller volume in terms of the packages if we're taking like those small and medium business, but if we capture them all together, it's a huge market. And I think that was target for a lot of carriers outside of this big four. They start serving this market first because they understood that enterprise customers already have some contracts with the big carriers. In this case, there's a lot of moms and pop shops. There's a lot of growing businesses who need technological solutions. And I think that's what differentiate carriers like Better Trucks.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, as well as kind of, how and where the dynamic between sort of the rise of the sort of new age carrier like a Better Trucks, how that's differentiated between those sort of classical carriers and what they're offering and at the rate at which their technology services are evolving. I do want to come back to tracking because I think it's a fascinating aspect of our industry, but I also want to just kind of circle back to again, your role and the sort of promise of the platform from EasyPost in the sense that, you're working, I know you're a bit more carrier focused, but you're working to sort of satisfy the requirements and the needs of shippers, right? And ultimately also trying to play sort of matchmaker with the right carriers. And so that's a persona that you're obviously very focused on, but one that the Better Truck or the EasyPost platform serve. So can you kind of talk about, sort of the dance or the tightrope walk between, sort of carriers on the left, or I'm sorry, shippers on the left, carriers on the right, and what it's like to bring those parties together with your platform?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always very interesting to see that sometimes different shippers are asking for specific carriers, like they're working, let's say, in Chicago and Illinois, and they're looking for carrier who specifically working in this area that they can cut some costs or service could be faster. And then you can see that some carriers are coming to us and it's like, hey, we want unlock this relationship with XYZ shippers who are already on your platform, and we know that they're using you. Can we please integrate with us? The beauty of the EasyPost platform that we are integrating with carriers, but our shippers already integrated with us once, and they don't need to set up anything and like additionally. Like there could be some customization, depends on the carriers, but it's like one integration for shippers, and like for carriers they're kind of giving us their specs, their specifications, and we're adjusting like our code to integrate with them. I will say that finding the balance between that this carrier we're integrated need to be used not only by one shipper, not need to be, like could be used by multiple shippers. That's what I calling understand target market of the carrier. Like I'm always looking to understand business value of the carrier, which areas they're serving, what's their what's their service levels, what's the zones they're serving, what's their value proposition, like how they pitching themselves compared to the others, and what the potential volume we can go through this carrier, right? For the shippers, I think it's usually more understandable like why they're asking for certain carrier, but I need to be sure that there is multiple shippers who are looking for this carrier. In terms of technology, I would say that there is a kind of baseline of what I'm looking for technologically wise. I'm looking for proper rating API or like a rating solution where I can, when my shippers can see immediately what's the price for the label for the certain package. I'm looking, of course, as I mentioned before, for the tracking to understand like if tracking is working and can we pass this information to the shipper. And I'm looking for a label creation opportunities. Some carriers are able to create label by themselves. For some of them, we're drawing labels because we know industry standards, how they should look like. But mostly carriers know what the labels they need because they have a drivers, they have like a scanning machines to like read the label and understand from and to address. I will say that it's fascinating to see that there is also tendency of regional carriers or smaller carriers to working in the partnership with the big carriers. Like, for example, helping with the first mile solution or helping with the last mile delivery when something being picked up or something being dropped off by big four, and the middle one will be done by the regional carriers. There's like a lot of things happening right now. I think there's some switch between treating everyone as a competitor into treating everyone as a partners, and how to minimize spend on the logistics, because we know there's a fuel charges, there's a gas changes, right? The price of gas. There is a speed, because if before customers were like, oh, okay, this shipment will take 2 weeks. Now, I will think twice if something will be delivered more than 2 weeks instead of the couple of days, right? There's like a balance between technology, between like satisfying customer and understanding for the company what will be the best decision, like to partner with someone to maybe accept or not accept the parcel because it's not covered zones.
Yep.
I would say it's like changing dramatically in the good way in the 4.5 years I'm working at EasyPost.
Yeah, it's a really good summary. And I think one, as you stated, all higher tides, raise all boats in the harbor, right? Where these call it competition historically, and maybe more recently call it partnership. This is all moving the industry forward. And I think the work that your team is doing as it relates to the EasyPost platform, as well as the fact that you are sort of behind the scenes, sort of evaluating, carrier capabilities. You're playing, in some cases, matchmaker, or at least, strategic advisor as to, how and where certain shippers can get matched up with certain carriers, whether it's service level related, whether it's metro or geography related. All that stuff is super important. It isn't always maybe seen by even the shipper that you're working with, right? All the things that are happening behind the scenes, especially when you're doing the carrier enablement and such. Fast forward, as you stated, to rates being produced, labels being created, labels being placed on packages and then being delivered. I often sort of joke with folks that that's only 51% of the sort of success criteria. The other 49% is all the tracking and technology around it, not only in terms of back to the customer, or I should say the shipper's customer, but also in many cases, I think you could dissect just the tracking vertical slice of our industry. There's so much innovation happening there, I think, for a host of reasons. First and foremost, there's a general desire, as you stated, to kind of provide the Amazon-like experience, right? The other thing that I see is that companies, they want to own the digital experience, and so they want to tailor that all the way through to notifying you that your package has successfully arrived. And so they're less inclined to sign up for a vanilla-based service where they really want to sort of have that sort of brand impact all the way through to package delivery. But anyways, I think tracking, at least from our standpoint, is fascinating, not only in terms of how dynamic it is and how rapidly it's changing, but I think the other thing is that tracking is a place where partners ultimately make their way into the ecosystem. So we do a lot of working with our shipper carriers and our shipper customers, and they are bringing their kind of tracking partners to the table. Can you talk about kind of tracking in the EasyPost world? I know you sort of hinted at it, but can you also talk about working with shippers and working with the carriers, the technology companies, tracking technology companies that they're bringing to the table, and how that sort of impacts sort of this whole relationship between platform, shipper, and carrier?
Sure. It's a very interesting trend happening right now. There's a more independent companies, like not related to the carriers, who are doing tracking information, who are like asking to grab through webhooks information about the package. And I think it's also related to data analytics. Like a lot of e-commerce companies, not only e-commerce, a lot of customers who are looking through the shipping solutions. There could be warehouses, e-commerce, DTC. They are looking into the optimization, right? And I think tracking information, like collecting data based on the tracking, this is something what can help, because it's accuracy, it's a data prediction, it's understanding who is stick to their promises in terms of carriers.
Sure.
If they offering second day delivery, if it's actually delivered second day or not. And I see this is a very growing trend of doing a lot of analytics and switching between solutions. If customers understand, and customers, I'm talking about shippers, if shippers understand there is a potential of increasing quality and decreasing of the price. What I can see that there is also big growth of international tracking, because that's the difficult part. When the package is crossing customs border, the tracking is usually more complex. And I see that there's the companies who are doing international tracking or working with international carriers. At the same time, domestically in the United States, I think we can see two growing patterns. Carriers by themselves start investing into the tracking solutions. Like I start seeing more details, tracking information. Like there's actually explanation what's happening with the packages in the sorting center. It's like passed to the vehicle, and some of them even have graphics. I said like gamification, when you can see like a little truck going over the city. I'm sometimes like watching where's my packages. And like why he's on the Pine Street when he's supposed to be on the Taylor Street. And I'm like, that's not logical route. In my head, I'm playing Mario there. Yes. But we can see that the actual classical carriers, and when I say classical carriers, I mean like a big four and all carriers regional, they're starting investing, because then they saw the competition of independent tracking companies who are like helping shippers with analytics. And I think this is very healthy competition, because one already have all data, like carriers already have data, they just haven't properly used it. And then another one see that there is a gap in satisfying consumer needs. We will see again. Right now it could be competition, then it could be partnership. We see, Mike, with you, there's a lot of merchant acquisitions happening here and there. Some companies are coming on the market, some unfortunately like being acquired or bankrupt. This is a part of, like, I think logistics industry for a very long time was not very modern in terms of technology, and in the last 5-7 years it stepped up, and I think COVID especially started driving a lot those changes.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And again, I can only go off of the information that I have sort of historically, and I'm sure you as well, that there was a sort of a long established standard, and back in my consulting days, we were talking about just sort of the different timelines that industries would be on in terms of technology disruption, and that disruption is definitely here in this sort of last mile delivery space. It's refreshing to not only be a part of it, but also again to work with different partners, as well as to meet the requirements and standards set forth by our customers. So it's an exciting space to be in. Now, you mentioned COVID, and on the technology side, we are in a sector of the workforce that may be more so than anyone else in terms of our profession. We're quite used to working remotely, maybe not as frequently as we saw during COVID, now post-COVID. You are the product manager of a technology-based platform. And so I'm curious, I think the last time I talked to you were in California. Now you're on the next time I talk to you a week later, you're on the East Coast. I know you're interfacing with your team all the time. Can you talk through what sort of modern product development looks like today in sort of a decentralized working team model? I know you've got teams, I think in Utah and a couple other places across the United States. So can you just talk us through what modern product development looks like in sort of the digital age where post-COVID we're decentralized more than ever?
Absolutely happy to talk about this topic. I started in the company when we were all offline in California, in San Francisco, and down the road, COVID unfortunately happened. From the business standpoint, it's helped us grow a lot and revisit a lot of the things and a lot of the process. In terms of the product development, I think if you're a technological company, it's very logical that you're able to work remotely and your processes are working smoothly. There's no actual tangible physical work compared to like better trucks, where you have a warehouses, you have a fleet of cars or trucks, you have people, right? Like where you need to always be physically present. Here, it's actually became like much more easy to like set up the call, understand like what's our targets, our KPIs, like what we're looking for. We're still right now trying to meet at least once in a quarter with my product management colleagues to like to do some brainstorming, but on a day-to-day basis, yes, I'm free to travel across the United States, working in a different time zone. I'm being respectful to everyone's times, like trying to understand at what time frame we should work, when it's not too early for Pacific time, when it's not too late for the East Coast, because I'm usually based in the Pacific time zone. And I think opportunity with work from home, one of the biggest ability to hire people from the different states. You don't need to looking only in the place where you are located. And we have a wonderful colleagues on the Midwest, on the East Coast. I have ability to work with people with a different background. I think it's also wonderful. And we're like time to time flying, visiting each other. Yes, our headquarters right now in Utah, in Lehigh, where a lot of our salespeople, and they're the one like, and actually Utah is perfect place because it's not on the West Coast. Like you can fly to different places much faster compared to like a San Francisco.
Yeah.
I will say that for us, it was like absolute benefit, but I totally understand that for people who have a warehouses and who have like a physically need to be present, those 2 years were very tough. Like 2020 and 2021 were tough. We saw like a lot of changes, and like health wise, it's also was like compromising someone's health.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, again, kind of post-pandemic, we've, as you stated, we've learned to, sort of revisit the way in which we have our team structured, revisit, how and where we're looking for talent, right? It's not exclusive to the market where we've got, our technology team physically sitting. And so there's been a ton of changes, and yet at the same time, there is a very real need that these packages need to be, physically handled in person. And there's an element of our business, as you stated, that, we had to work through just to make it through some of those more difficult times. Well, that's certainly interesting. And I know, aside from the fact that, your team is growing, interest in advocacy to get into our profession as it relates to technology is a passion of yours. I was scrolling through Twitter about a month ago, and I saw your profile raised in a tweet by EasyPost, highlighting all the great work that you do with girls, trying to get them and advocate for them for interest in STEM programs, and ultimately into more sort of engineering type roles. And so, as the father of two young girls at home, can you kind of talk about what fuels the passion for your advocacy, what that looks like, and what are some of the things that again that you're seeing interesting things happen in that space as it relates to little girls interested in STEM careers?
Absolutely. What a music for my ears. That's a wonderful topic. I grew up in Moscow, where people have a little bit different opinion for women having STEM education. And I grew up in mathematical school. I finished mathematical school and engineering university, where we have a lot of girls, and it was actually very honorable until I came to United States and understood a really big gap, that the STEM is not promoted here. And I was once invited to one of the San Francisco school to discuss about STEM education and explain what does it mean. And the questions girls were asking me, girls and non-binary students, they were not concerning, but they were so different from me. They were afraid to pursue those careers. They were afraid how they will explain to the friends or to the parents that they want to choose mathematician or civil engineering, where I think it's so fascinating to close those gaps, to be a part of the history. I'm a big fan of Marie Curie, who very famous chemistry professor. And I understood that this is a big topic in the United States, and I would love to advocate. I'm doing a lot of mentoring. I'm helping women with their resume, like some refugees, how to like adapt to American market, how to pursue like engineering careers here. Because I think it's important to have a different views, like gender-wise, cultural-wise, on the products. Because to make better product, and when we say product, it's not only technological, it could be any type of the product. You need to have different people in the room. And I'm absolutely in love to see girls being a part of engineering schools and sharing with them, like, how to explain to the girls that this is worth it. I did example, very, very fun example of all those filters in social media. They are being built by engineers,
Yes.
right? Like if you wanted this filter, you need to know how to code, right? Or like we're talking about solutions in the logistics world, right? There's also, and by the way, our logistics world is very male dominated, and I want to like more women in this industry as well, because we know how to multitask, we know how to deliver everything on time, and I think that's how we should grow, like by motivating a woman and like non-binary people to join the forces, and like that their vision and their knowledge are also very important.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it earlier too, right? This industry, it has, sort of infusion of, individual, different individuals, different backgrounds as it relates to, previous industries that they've worked in, to, different cultural experiences, all that stuff. Again, the tide, being raised to elevate all boats in the harbor, right? And so, all the more reason where the more folks that we bring into this industry, the different perspectives that we can get, the more female and non-binary leaders that we can help build up, all the better for future generations to follow. So again, on behalf of an engineering dad of two young girls at home, I appreciate the work that you're doing, and I also appreciate the work that you do in concert with supporting us, Better Trucks, as a carrier on your platform. It seems like everywhere I turn my head, EasyPost is growing, and yet still feel like we've got a primary connection with you, Anna, and your team, and a partnership that serves us incredibly well, and our customers well as well. So thank you for that. And then maybe to close us out, Dan, I'll hand it back to you just for wrapping us up here.
Amazing. Fascinating conversation, as you both mentioned. Just the rate of change, has been exponential the last few years, and no doubt with a lot of even what we're seeing this year, lots on the horizon. So I'm going to ask you one more question. We'll get you both out of here on this. It's called Better Yet. We believe deeply the best is yet to come. So I'm going to start with you, Anna. Give me one aspect of this industry that you're either excited about or optimistic about in the near term.
That's a difficult question. I'm excited about expanding into what I mentioned, that there is more diversity in this industry. And I'm excited about more technology, that this industry being more technologically advanced. That's two things I'm really excited about. And I purely love e-commerce and the logistics industry.
Fabulous, Anna. Amazing. Mike?
Yeah, I'll kind of piggyback on something that Anna mentioned earlier, which is that a lot of shippers are going to a multi-carrier strategy, meaning that rather than exclusively being locked in nationally or internationally with a big four carrier, many of them are developing hyper localized metro by metro, market by market strategies. And so calling it, forcing the hand of two non-traditional partners, or call them competitors, to come to the table and figure out solutions together on behalf of the same customer. That's just a fascinating change, and I hope that, aside from the fact that that breaks down some traditional lines of or walls of competition, and brings more partnership, as Anna mentioned, I'm confident that that could also in turn create some pretty innovative technical solutions as well. And so I think so many aspects of this industry is changing, but I think that aspect, or that element of non-traditional or competing sort of legs of the journey, first mile, middle mile, last mile, and some of the players and spaces coming together and again, a sort of a new age way to help solve the problems that customers have or shippers have. I think it's just absolutely fascinating.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Anna. Thank you, Mike, so very much, not only for your time today, but everything you're doing to kind of drive the entire industry forward. This has been another episode of Better Yet. Until next time, thank you.
Thank you.